In this video, I'll be teaching us how to produce the foamer as a water-based paint defoamer, which is actually very important. Defoamer is actually very important in paint production and every other uh, production that you can actually think of, including beverages. Any production at all that requires agitation requires the foaming, and paint production or paint also is not actually left out in the arrays of product that needs to be deformed during production and stay deformed after production. So my name's Oluwaseun I will popularly known as Dazo. So come with me as I show you some of the things that you're actually going to need in the production of the foamer. So we have different types of defoamer, but in this very video, I will be teaching you just one of it. There are other defoamers according to how active they are, according to their effectiveness, so to speak, in the production of paint. And there are defoamer that are not a universal defoamer, where I'm actually talking in terms of paint production. That means you cannot use it across board every paint. For example, like this mineral, the one I will actually be teaching you is a mineral oil defoamer. It's a mineral oil defoamer, and that means there are specific um, type of paint that you will not be able to use it in because they are not advisable. You can use it in minimal amounts, in very minute amount, and in such paints, but not really recommended to be used. For example, in the production of silk satin, mineral oil defoamer is not really advised. It's not really advised because they are high sheen paint, quote and unquote, what we refer to as satin and silk in this part of the world might not actually be what other people regard it as in other clime. For example, in the EU, I think they refer to it as silk paint. In the US, they refer to it as satin paint, and these are paints with a certain degree of sheen between 30 and 35 at 60-degree angle. That is what they refer to as satin. But what we refer to as satin in Nigeria, or what we refer to as silk, are paints that have a higher sheen at 60-degree angle. I think from between 45 and 60 degree or 80. No, close. Some person actually expect it to be as high as 80 degree, which is close to gloss paints, acute gloss paints level. So, but that is not what this some other person will actually consider to be silk. In other climb, they use a little bit of filler in their silk satin in order to control sheen. But here in Nigeria, we don't use satin. So what we actually refers to as satin in this climb can actually be said to be a semi-gloss to high gloss paint. So I'm actually just trying to clarify some stuff there in order to for me to explain the point that mineral oil defoamer may not actually be universally acceptable in uh, paints that are required to be high, that are actually formulated to be high gloss paints, such as satin and silk. The reason for that is because of the inclusion of some chemicals, even though I did not actually include this in this one, some chemicals that can disrupt certain sheen, or that can actually migrate to the surface of the paint and disrupt the sheen. So in this formulation, I did not actually put it, and that culprit is actually what we call silica. Silica is a well-known matting agent, which is most included in mineral oil defoamer, though I am not actually including it in this production. We have about different 5 different types of the former. I'm only explaining or teaching just one of it in this video. I have books that I've actually written concerning the former formulations, different formulations for the former that I've actually prepared. If you are interested, I'll be dropping a link in the comment section so that you can actually reach out to me in the description box, so that you can actually reach out to me for that manual. So, but then these are actually what we are going to be using in this paint. I mean, this defoamer production. We call it mineral oil defoamer. Mineral oil defoamer. Why? Because the primary. Okay, let me not just go ahead of myself, so that I can begin to explain it one at a time. Mineral oil defoamer. So uh, it is just like I said, it is not actually advisable to use it across board. It is not actually advisable to use it across board because you don't know the composition. The person that the producer may actually include silica, just like I said, and silica is a well-known matting agent. So when you introduce a matting agent into what you want, a paint that you want a certain amount of gloss level in it, you are definitely going to be ruining that paint. I wrote an article on that some times ago, and probably if you are actually on our WhatsApp or on our Facebook group, you will have seen that article, and all of the things that I actually did explain in that article. So no, for us not to elongate this video too much, I will just go straight to chemicals, the chemicals that is actually required in the production of mineral oil defoamer. Mineral oil defoamer. No, the thing is actually doing me like I should talk about other types of deformer, but this video will be too long. So I will not, I will just skip that so that we can zoom our attention to just mineral oil deformer. And just like I said, if you're actually interested in knowing more about other deformers that are suitable for different types of paint, from matte paint to eye gloss paint, then you can actually go to the description box or in the comment section. I will be dropping a link that you can follow, or my number that you can use in chatting me up on WhatsApp. So just a kind of push. We have silicone defoamer also. I don't know why I couldn't just move on without mentioning some of those type of defoamer. Okay, let me just put it there. Silicone defoamer, which is a bit still acceptable when producing silk, silicone deformer, when producing silk and satin, but it requires that you use it in very minute amount. So let's leave that and go straight to what we're actually doing. So what are the chemicals that are actually required in the production of mineral oil defoamer? We have crude wax, crude wax. Excuse me. We have crude wax. Crude wax is actually one of the major ingredients in this defoamer production. It is actually the primary ingredient that is actually conveyed to penetrate the wall, because the wall of foams. Okay, before I actually proceed, I think I need to explain the fact that we have different types of foam. Though I've done that before, but then I still want to touch on it, which will actually also give me which will also lead us to the fact that in any given production, we are expected to use 2 different types of defoamer in that production, or we are actually required to use a universal defoamer that can work for both macro and micro foams, and then use it at the end of the production. So we'll use it first at the grinding stage and at the let down stage. I know some of us, we don't really know about all this grinding phase and the let down phase because we are not exposed to it when we are actually being trained, when we were being trained. No, in paint production, there are stages in paint production, and for me, I basically classify it into two stages, which is the grinding stage. I don't know what is wrong with my marker today. Grinding stage and the let down stage. Let down stage. The grinding stage and the let down stage. The grinding stage is actually when you combine all the ingredients, all the group A ingredients, which include your fillers, your additives, every necessary thing in which you need to add or include in your production is added, except for your binder, So, and the grinding speed or the dispersing speed differs from one stage or the other. Now, when you are actually at the grinding stage or at the grinding phase, those are the two terminology that is actually being used, the grinding stage or the grinding phase. The speed, the dispersing speed that you're actually using at those stages differs from the speed when you're actually using an high speed disperser. Some of us, we are just cottage and small businesses that we are actually just still coming up, so we probably might not be familiar with all of those things, but it is necessary that you have the know, you are in the know of it. So we have the grinding stage, and at that stage you are actually operating your machine at 800 RMP, RPM rather, I meant to say RPM, to like 1500 RPM. But at the later stage, you are grinding at a very low speed, which is from between 500 and sometimes 800, or at most 1000 RMP. What that implies is that this one, at the grinding stage, you are actually giving it enough speed so that there can be a shear force to disperse your pigment, especially your pigments like titan, your calcium, and all that. They require a whole lot of force to break the what is this called? This force called now? Is it Van der Waals force? Van der Waals force. So you're actually breaking it so that they can stay dispersed. So you need an ample amount of energy and ample amount of force to allow that process to happen successfully. But at the let down stage, which means you have stopped grinding or you grind all your pigments and all the additive into a slurry state. What I mean by a slurry state is the paste-like state or the semi-fluid state that you usually have your paints before you had your binder. So now, having said that, we're now going to go to the let down stage. The let down stage is actually the stage that you incorporate your binder. And the reason why the speed is actually low is because when you apply too much force at this stage, you can denature your binder. What that means is that you can use the force to destroy that binder, which may lead to an irreversible issue such as coagulation, such as stretchy paint, which you probably definitely will not be able to recover the paint. So that paint is definitely going to be a failed production. So you don't want to apply too much of speed at that point. Also, at this stage, you want to reduce your speed so as not to increase the temperature of paint. So the temperature must be maintained at least 25 to 30 degree Celsius, at most maybe 35. So you don't want to go beyond or overboard. So having said that, because foam is actually produced because of agitation, we need defoamer in order to take that off, in order to knock out the foam. Why? Because foam has too many detrimental effects on paint. When you don't properly defoam your paint, there's going to be what we call paint defect. One of such defects is what we call the pin high, where you have dots or holes on your paint. Instead of you having a smooth continuous film, you have dots, you have tiny holes. Because of when that paint is actually applied, there are air bubbles that are trapped in the foam and then burst as there was the evaporation was actually happening. Now, aside that, when we are actually dealing with stuff like eye gloss paint, like satin, and you don't properly defoam, the foam will actually cause what I usually refer to as micro roughness, and then distort the sheen of your paint, because at a particular angle, the light also hits the surface of the paint and reflect it back, so that your eyes can actually perceive it as shining. If there's a disruption, a roughness, micro roughness, the roughness that you cannot actually see with your eyes is on that substrate, it will absorb some of the light, and then the remaining will not be reflected, and that is why we'll not be complaining about the paint is not shining or something like that. So that is actually about that. So this Croda was, they also refer to it as EMBS, uh, EMBS was. But then when you tell them you want Croda ones, they know what you're actually talking about. You need about 2 kg, which will serve as a primary no agent in puncturing the air bubbles. It punctures the air bubbles. It migrates to the surface of the bubble and disrupts the surface tension. That surface tension, I think in chemistry, if you remember, it's called lamella or something like that. So just scrap that. So we are not doing chemistry here. So it will migrate to it and disrupt it, so that it's box or collapses. And then we need paraffin oil. This paraffin oil serves as the carrier, the oil phase carrier. That means carrier means what will convey. So it will convey this crude was, because this oil will enable the other ingredient to spread rapidly. It speed up the rate of spreading over the paint surface, so that there's a knockout effect of this. So we have distilled water, which is 0.5. We have water, which is 10 kg. We have outside, which is 0.02 kg. And we have bentonite, which is 0.1. So let me now go back to the reason why we use this. This one I said is actually optional. The reason being, there are some waters that we call hard water, so there are mineral in there, and because of this distilled water, there can be an exchange of ions, an exchange of ions, so that it will reduce the hardness of whatever water you are actually using. But then if you cannot get it, scrap it. So we use normal water, which is about 10 kg of water. So this is actually one way of producing the foam, and there are many other ways. There are ways that you produce that, instead of using water, you use an ample amount of paraffin oil, and all that, but then let's just stick to what we are doing. So then we use biocide because this is a water medium and there's the possibility of bacterial growth. So just to guide against such happenings, now we actually introduce 0.02 kg of biocide. And then we have the bentone, or what we call the bentonite clay, which is actually a rheologifier, a thickener, so to speak. It's actually a thickener so that it won't allow the phase to separate, because we are combining oil and water, which are incompatible. We are combining oil phase and water phase, they are incompatible. But when you introduce stuff like this, it keeps when bentonite clay, it keeps the medium together. It keeps the medium together. This is one of the trick that we use also in water-based gloss paints using Akid. So that being said, you need 0.1 or lesser than that. You can use 0.5 if you want to save cost, which is about 50 grams of bentonite clay. So that being said, all about the production of the chemical for the production of defoamer, mineral oil defoamer. You always remember that we have different type of defoamer. We have polymer defoamer, we have silicone defoamer, we have mineral oil defoamer, we have powder defoamer, and we have vegetable oil defoamer, or white oil or vegetable oil defoamer. Even though that is not actually a prominent defoamer, is not most majorly used, but then we have it. So I just needed to state that. So how do we go about the production? The production is simple. You heat up your crude wax. You can use double bath, but if you don't want to use a double bath heating method, fine. You add water into your pot from the production water, include your crude wax and melt it. Once it melts, bring it out of from fire and add your paraffin wax and mix. Then you can add your distilled water, then add the remaining add the production water to it, then add biocide, then add bentonite clay to keep the phase together. So you're having the oil phase and you're having the water phase being combined, and your defoamer is ready. It's as easy as that. See you in my next video.